From Iris to the Great Serpent, and from Bifrost to the promise a god made, let's talk about rainbows. Hello all you wonderfully funky people, Funky Monkey here, welcome to today's episode. How are you? How's life treating you? Hope everything is okay with you. On today's episode we will celebrate Pride Month by talking about the meaning of the rainbow throughout humanity's history, so stick around, you'll enjoy it and learn something new. For the world builders and storytellers out there, this episode I am sure will inspire and help you expand your world, make it feel more interesting, more alive, and explain a phenomenon I am sure you don't think of too often. You can easily copy-paste the stories I will impart with you or tweak them to better fit your world, your choice. And if you aren't a world builder and just stopped by to find out something new, I am sure that with the info you will get, you could enthrall those around you while chatting about random stuff, or you could simply use it to annoy the living daylights out of them. Again, your choice. Either way, I am sure that most of the things we will be talking about were not taught to you in school, so stick around, it's gonna be worth it. Now, with all of that said and done, let's talk about what I'll be painting today. Today I will continue with Battle Sister number 4 of 7. I started the painting journey with the Adapta Sororitas miniatures I have, on which each miniature will get a different treatment, each will be a lesson. This time around, I decided to go with something cinematic. Given the dynamic pose the miniature has, I decided to accentuate this by playing around with light. One side of the Battle Sister will be in shadows, while the other will be lit, giving the sense that the battlefield is only lit from one side, or she is moving alongside an obstacle that blocks light. I'm starting from a corn red base, then I'm adding shadows to all the surfaces facing downwards or inwards using black ink, and only afterwards will I come in with white from above and the right side of the miniature. Unfortunately, the white I initially chose was far too watery and transparent, and I didn't get the highlights I wanted. The second time around, it was again too watery. Only on my third attempt did I reach the results I was looking for. This is what happens when you really try to impress, right? From corn red, I will go all the way up to barbarian flesh, while on the dark side, I won't go that bright. I'm gonna leave it perhaps 1 or 2 shades brighter than corn red. For the metal parts, I'm gonna go with standard lead belcher and then highlight with my favorite silver color, Stormhost Silver. Hope you enjoy. Before we start our story, we must get through our pre-story checklist. Make sure everything is ready for the tales we will spin. I don't know about you, but every time I tell stories I feel the need to have something on hand to loosen my tongue and make it more enjoyable. To that end, I have some coffee in my mug, I have some wonderful tea in my mousse cup, and I have something to soothe the throat this time, as I am battling a pretty nasty cold, so that is actually some cold medicine that I will be enjoying today. And unfortunately none of my assistants are around, but I'm sure that eventually they will grace us with their presence. How about you? I'm curious, do you share my habit of having something tasty and soothing to drink when sharing stories or listening to stories? I'm curious, what floats your boat when sharing stories? What helps you get in the mood? If you want, just share your routine down in the description. And with that, I think it's time for a story. We will start by talking about the different legends, representations and meanings behind the rainbow from across the world and from different points in time. Let's start with the meaning behind the rainbow in the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam and Christianity. The rainbow was initially the sign that the flood that drowned the world, according to legend, was about to start, giving Noah a chance to save 2 of each animals on Earth alongside his family. We won't get into the technicalities of repopulating the world with only 1 pair of each animal and intense inbreeding among humans, nor will we try to find out where the drain that allowed the waters to recede, reveal land once more and end the flood was or still is. That's a little bit scary if you think about it. That water had to go somewhere, it didn't just evaporate. Otherwise, you know, the whole water cycle in nature, the flood would have just kept on repeating itself. Nor will we talk about the good times marine animals would have had and how much exploration they must have done when the whole earth was flooded. Now, once the flood was over and the repopulation of the world began, the Abrahamic God changed the meaning of the rainbow from a symbol of the end and the apocalypse to a symbol, a visual representation of the promise that deity made to Noah to never again flood the world. Don't worry, the next apocalypse, according to those teachings, would be characterized by fire, so there's that. But let's go back a little further in history to the Mesopotamian and Elamites, a people that inhabited parts of modern-day Iran and Iraq. Here we have a goddess that both people worshipped named Manzat or Tirana later on. She was the goddess of rainbows. In Akkadian, one of the oldest languages on earth, the language spoken in Mesopotamia around 5,000 years ago, Manzat literally meant rainbow. At the same time, in Sumerian, another one of the oldest languages on earth, that was common alongside Akkadian actually, Tirana meant bow of heaven. She was mentioned among other deities in a treaty between the Akkadian Empire and the Elamite kingdom as a guarantee, one of the guarants? One of the gods that would guarantee the terms of the treaty. Because the knowledge we have of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Elamites, Babylonians and Mesopotamians in general, seeing how most of their writings were on clay tablets, are pretty scarce, we don't know much about this particular deity. What we do know comes from fragments of stories or incantations that have survived somewhat intact. This does neither mean we won't find any more on clay tablets as they are translated, nor does it mean we will find out more, because most stories might have not survived the ages. But from what researchers gathered thus far, she was the daughter of the deities Sin or Nana or Suen, the representation of the moon and cattle, perhaps because of the crescent moon resembling cattle horns, and Ningal in Sumerian or Nikal in Akkadian, the wife of the moon god. Her portfolio hasn't been fully identified just yet. She's believed to be associated with different types of birds, including swans and geese. So perhaps she was a goddess of the air or of the sky, who knows. Manzat's brothers, on the other hand, was Samash in Akkadian or Utu in Sumerian, the sun god, a divine judge, and depending on the areas she was worshipped in Elam, she was Simut or Shimut's wife, a herald of the gods and associated with the planet Mars, while in Mesopotamian she was the wife of Ishtaran, the protector god of the city Der. He also was a divine judge and was associated with snakes, being represented as part snake himself. As you can see, the rainbow was somewhat associated with messengers and heralds from the times of the most ancient of civilizations. But let's move closer to our time. In ancient Greece, we have the goddess Iris or Iris, the personification of rainbows. She was the messenger of the gods, and although later she was replaced by Hermes and almost completely forgotten by history, she had some interesting roles to play in Greek mythology. She was the daughter of Thaumas, a sea god, and Electra, one of the 3,000 Oceanids, and her sisters were Arche and the Harpies. The Harpies will get their own episode, but you already know the drill, that's another story for another time. When the Titan Wars began between the Titans, the old gods and the Olympians, the new gods, Zeus, Ares, etc., Iris became the messenger of the Olympians, serving mostly Hera, the queen goddess, while her sister Arche chose to serve the Titans. When the war ended and the Titans were defeated, the Olympian gods punished Arche by tearing off her wings and giving them as a gift to Theseus, who later gave them to Achilles, her son. Iris was also tasked with delivering a message to Demeter, asking her to put a stop to the famine that wreaked havoc on the world after her daughter Persephone was abducted by Hades and taken to the underworld. Demeter refused to do so and sent Iris back to Olympus. Another time, she was sent by Zeus to order Heracles, or Hercules in Latin, to free Prometheus, the Titan who stole fire from the gods and gifted it to mortals. He will get his own episode at one point as well, but say it with me, that's another story for another time. Iris also took part in the Trojan War more or less. She was one of the catalysts of the war, being the one who told Menelaus that his wife Helena ran away with the Trojan prince Paris and that her brother Castor died. She was also represented alongside Lyssa, the goddess of madness and insanity, cursing Heracles with madness and rage, resulting in him killing his 3 sons and wife Megara. In Roman mythology, when the first Roman king Romulus died and became the god Quirinus, his wife Hersilia begged the gods allow her to ascend, become immortal and spend eternity with her husband. Juno, the equivalent of Hera, sent Iris, who with one single touch turned Hersilia immortal and took her to the afterlife as a goddess to be with her husband once more. She became one of the Hore, or the seasons. Now, if you want to know more about Romulus, the first Roman king, make sure you check out my video on him. And if you want to learn more about the Hore, or the seasons, so you could spice up your world even more, I have a video on that too, so links are right over there. Iris is represented holding a caduceus, a winged staff, symbol of messengers, and a pitcher of water for the gods. Now, as world builders, do you have rainbows in your world? What do they represent? Have you thought about that? For me, they are present, but I haven't actually explored the things I can do with them that deeply. Thankfully, up until now, my players haven't asked anything about the rainbows or their existence in my world, but I have some ideas. To be honest, the idea of a god or a goddess represented by a rainbow is really appealing to me, as well as having this entity perhaps be a messenger of other gods or use rainbows as messages. What entity would use rainbows to send messages? That's something I gotta think about. And by the way, I can easily see clerics and paladins, even druids, follow such a messenger god or such an entity that uses rainbows to send messages and have them wear the colors of the rainbow with pride. Now, let's take a short break and talk about this badass miniature. Slowly I am building up to the skin tone I am looking for. I'm adding fairly thin coats of paint on smaller and smaller areas until I'm happy with the results. I'm still learning how to paint skin, as it is a fairly, I wouldn't say difficult process, but I would call it challenging, at least for me. I'm still learning how to paint different skin tones properly. For this miniature, I'm aiming for somewhat segmenting the different parts of the miniature, keeping the recesses quite dark so that each muscle group stands out more when highlighted. I'm going back and forth between the different shades as I see fit to achieve what I'm looking for. I'm quite happy with the results and how it looks thus far. With the skin done, at least for now, I will focus on the metal parts, tubes and weapons. The base I'm starting from is Lead Belcher. I'm quite careful while I'm picking up all the different metal elements to not touch the already painted parts, as that would be a disaster. I really like how the metallic paint looks on the shaded side of the miniature, creating a really nice contrast. Now back to the story. Welcome back. Sorry if I'm talking a little faster than usual. I have a really sore throat and I want to get this recording over with as soon as possible and just get to editing the silent part. Now, let's move to the other side of the world and talk about the Aboriginal Australian myth around the rainbow serpent, a creature that is regarded as a god of creation and destruction at the same time. Depending on the Aboriginal culture and the area they hail from, there are legends that say that the rainbow serpent carved the world as we see it, with gullies and mountains, canyons and mesas, while it was making its way to the surface. It is believed that it resides in very deep waterholes, especially the permanent ones, that it makes sure remain filled, and that it either brings rain or stops it depending on the culture. Lightning and thunder are signs that the rainbow serpent is angry and that it is bringing down floods and creates cyclones to punish those who have crossed it. Quartz rainbows and certain seashells, such as mother of pearls, are attributed to the rainbow serpent, as they catch the light and look like rainbows. The serpent is sometimes represented as being male. Other times it is believed to be female, presenting breasts, which is interesting and weird, seeing a serpent with breasts, but hey, we find such creatures in fantasy all over the place. In other cultures, though, it is believed to be either hermaphroditic or by gender. What's interesting is that it's never represented as having a human form. It is always a serpent. The appearance of the rainbow in the sky is also believed to be a sign that the rainbow serpent is moving from one waterhole to another. Now, let's talk about other representations or understandings of the rainbow. Usually, it is believed to be a bridge, and the best example is Bifrost or Bilrost, the bridge that connects Midgard, our world, to Asgard, the world of the gods. It is believed that the bridge can be used only by the gods or by those who were slain in battle, so basically the valiant and the noble. It was called Bilrost in the Poetic Edda, sources written in Old Norse that were eventually gathered in the 13th century, and it was called Bifrost in the Prose Edda, the sources written based on the fragments of the Poetic Edda in the 13th century. These myths, alongside many others, were written by Snorri Sturluson, one of the most famous skalds in Norse history. I have a video on skulls if you want to find out more, and I also talk about Snorri Sturluson, as his whole story is quite interesting, and anyway, link is right over there if you're curious. Now, it was believed by the Norse that the rainbow on the Asgard end rests in Himinbjörg, the place in which the god Heimdall lived, the god who was tasked with guarding it from Jotun, supernatural creatures such as dwarves, elves, and most importantly, trolls. The color red in the rainbow represents heat, it is scorching. And by having red in the rainbow, the Asgards made sure that the mountain and frost Jotun were not able to use the bridge to reach Asgard. We will talk about Heimdall at one point and of Jotuns at another point, as they are very interesting elements and characters in Norse mythology. But you know it, I know it, we all know it. That's another story for another time. It was believed that the burning rainbow bridge will shatter at the end of the world during Ragnarok, when inhabitants of the fire plane, more or less, will walk on it towards Asgard to engage in battle. And with that, let's move to more tropical realms and talk about the Hawaiian goddess Hina. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. She's the mother of the legendary Maui, whom she birthed after wearing a red loincloth she found on the shore of the ocean. After his birth, she wrapped him in some locks of her long hair and placed him in a bed of algae supported by jellyfish. This is a very, very neat image to have, and if you have any creatures that inhabit oceans, like ocean elves or sea elves or any other sentient creature that inhabits the seas of your world, and you're not using this particular image, I think you're missing out. Have a whole city supported by jellyfish and traveling the world with the currents. I love this idea. I haven't integrated it in my world just yet because I only learned this fact, this myth, while researching for this video, but by the gods, I will. I do have it now in my world. Now, let's get back to our story. Eventually, Maui gained supernatural powers that he used to slow down the sun so that his mother had longer days to do her work. Now, the story around the rainbow mentions Hina creating kapa cloth out of the bark of the banya trees. Eventually, she grew tired of the land and walked on a rainbow towards the sun, trying to reach it and find a new home there. But it was too hot for her, and she did not enjoy it. That night, she walked on another rainbow towards the moon and loved it. Hawaiians believe, even to this day, that she keeps on making kapa cloth for the gods from the banya trees she grew on the moon. Again, we see a clear connection between the mortal realm and the divine realm, facilitated through rainbows. But this is not the only symbol the rainbow represents. Sometimes it is also known as a weapon, as seen in the case of Indra, the Hindi god of sky, lightning, thunderstorms, rains, river flows, rainbows, and war. Indra is akin to Zeus, Jupiter, Thor, Perun, etc. from Europe and from the Middle East. Indra is the king of the Devas, angel-like entities, and the king of the Hindi haven, Svarga. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, so I hope you forgive me. He is celebrated as the savior of humankind after he defeated Vritra, the evil Asura, which are demon-like entities, nemesis of Devas. Vritra is the personification of drought, and by defeating him, Indra brings forth sunshine and rain, saving the world. In the battle, Indra sometimes is depicted using a bow made out of the rainbow while riding a white elephant called Airavata, or being close by said elephant. Now, before we take another break, I will briefly mention other beliefs regarding rainbows that I find really fascinating. The first is that the Buddhists believe that the spiritual state right before obtaining nirvana is that of the rainbow, where the desires and consciousness of the individual are extinguished completely. This is sometimes accompanied by Rigpa, or the rainbow body phenomenon, the point at which the body transforms into pure light and gives off rainbow colors. And according to the internet, the Cherokee believe that the rainbow forms the hem of the sun's coat. In Chinese folklore, on the other hand, the rainbow represents the story of two lovers, Xianpo and Yingtai, who can only be together when the rainbow appears. Xianpo is the color red of the rainbow, while Yingtai is blue. And in Celtic mythology, on the other side of the world, at the end of a rainbow, one might find a pot of gold guarded by a leprechaun. The leprechauns would surrender their pot of gold if discovered, but they would try to distract the attention of the individual who discovered them and almost always succeed. When the person looks away, the leprechaun and his pot immediately vanish into thin air. Now, let's talk about the miniature for a bit before we talk about taboos regarding the rainbow and wrap things up. With all elements painted, I am darkening them down just a little with Agrak's Earthshade and Nuln Oil to ensure the transitions are smooth and the recesses are dark enough. Once the washes are dry, it is time to highlight the metal parts. I'm using my favorite silver paint thus far, Stormhost Silver, to paint every segment of the weapon and every area that catches the light, making sure to leave the recesses very dark so that the highlights pop up more thanks to the contrast. I have to admit, I really like this miniature and how it turns out. Of course, this means that later I will go and screw it up. I won't spoil it for you just yet, but trust me, I regret it a little bit. But you know how the saying goes, learn from my mistakes. It's not a huge problem, it doesn't ruin the miniature, I just regret adding that element. I'm using Spirit Stone Red to give a shine to the tubes of the miniature. Come to think about it, I could have used blood for the blood god and then highlight with Spirit Stone. Now for the mistake. I'm rethinking the idea of the miniature and adding the light from an explosion on the left side as opposed as leaving it as is. Learn from my mistakes. Now let's wrap things up. Okay, let's make this swift as my voice is starting to break. Mayangna people of Nicaragua and Honduras believe that the rainbow is a bad omen. Upon seeing it, they believe that the devil is angry and they hide their children in their houses as to not see the rainbow or point at it so they don't draw attention upon themselves. Among some other Amazonian cultures, it is believed that rainbows bring misfortune and suffering, causing harm, miscarriages, and skin problems. There is also a very old tradition of closing one's mouth upon seeing a rainbow so that illness cannot enter the body that way. The ancient Slavs believed that a person touched by a rainbow is taken to the afterlife where they become half demons that serve Perun, the god of thunder and lightning. And with that, we can start wrapping things up. As you can see, there are many legends regarding rainbows around the world. Most of them regard rainbows as being a link between the mortal realm and the divine realm, be it a bridge or a divine messenger even, or a divine sign. Of course, for some, as you can see, the rainbow is a bad omen, but in the end, the rainbow nonetheless inspired many a story. As a world builder, you can easily select a story, a version that you liked and include it in your world, or take them all and sprinkle them around your world based on regions, species, whatever differentiates the people of your world. And with that, I wish you a wonderful and happy Pride Month, filled with pride, joy and love, as in the end that's all that matters. Love and nothing else. So love each other, treat each other with respect, and enjoy this month represented by the magnificent colors of the rainbow. Now, if you enjoyed this video and found value in it, please make sure you like, as it shows me that it was useful to you. Subscribe and join this wonderful, growing, funky community. Hit the bell so you are notified when the next video is out, and share it with your friends, your DMs, your GMs, storytellers, creators, players, neighbors, friends, family, pets, everyone. Oh, and if you want to see more of my lovely assistants, make sure you check out TW-Creative-Cats, a channel with shorts that have nothing to do with history and everything to do with cat adventures. Potato's ninth name is of the small. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I truly hope you found some inspiration and learned something new today, and I can't wait to see you all wonderfully funky people here next time on Funky Monkey MP, the place where you get your dose of miniature painting, history, world building, trivia and love. Remember, be curious, take inspiration from the past and Never stop world building and creating amazing things, whatever those are. Your mind and imagination are awesome, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And love each other. It's love that makes people. Until next time, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful, funky day. Cheers.